I get it when you're about to drop a few thousand on a new gaming rig, you're juggling a million what-ifs. Will it run the latest releases at 4K? Can I actually fit it under my desk without it turning the room into a sauna? Will I end up paying for a machine that looks cool but forces me to upgrade every 6 months? Those are the exact thoughts I was having last night, sitting on the couch with a friend who's on the fence about buying a pre-built desktop. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The msi Aegis RS2 is positioned as a no-compromise gaming PC, and that tagline feels like a promise you have to test in the real world. I spent a solid afternoon hooking it up in a modest home office, swapping out my old 1080p tower for this beast, and then ran through the kind of day-to-day you'd actually live with. What I found is that the value isn't just in the headline specs, it's in how those specs translate into a smooth, hassle-free experience for a specific slice of gamers. First off, let's talk about the core of the machine, the 12-core Intel Core i7-14700KF paired with the RTX 5070. On paper that combo looks ready to blast any AAA title at ultra settings, and in practice it lived up to that expectation. I fired up Cyberpunk 2077, Horizon Forbidden West, and even the latest release of Starfield at 1440p with ray tracing turned on. Frame rates hovered in the 80,100 frames per second range, which is buttery smooth on a 144Hz monitor. The thing that surprised me was how consistent those numbers stayed even when the games pushed texture streaming hard. The 2TB NVMe SSD gave the OS and those massive game installs room to breathe, and I never saw a single stutter when swapping between titles. Now, the no-compromise claim can be a double-edged sword because it sets an expectation that the machine will handle everything without you ever needing to think about it. In the Aegis RS2, that expectation holds true for the first few years of a typical gaming cycle. The liquid cooling system is a standout in that respect. It's a closed loop that sits snugly behind the chassis, and the fans stay whisper quiet even under a full-blast CPU load. I ran a stress test that pushed the i7 to 100% for 10 minutes, and the temperature never climbed past 70°C. The room didn't get hot, which means you can keep the PC in a bedroom or a small office without worrying about it becoming a heat source. The design is deliberately minimalist, nothing flashy, just a matte black front panel with subtle MSI branding. That simplicity works for folks who want a machine that blends into a living room setup rather than screaming gamer from the shelf. The dimensions are also decent for a full tower. It fits comfortably on a standard desk while leaving space for a monitor, keyboard, and a couple of speakers. The only compromise here is the lack of RGB lighting that many pre-built gaming PCs flaunt. If you love that neon glow, you'll have to add it yourself, which isn't a big hassle but is worth noting. One of the biggest concerns people have with pre-built rigs is upgradability. The Aegis RS2 scores high in that arena. The side panel slides off with a single latch, revealing a layout that's almost too clean. There are ample drive bays, a full-size PCIe slot for another GPU, and 2 additional DIMM slots that let you boost the RAM from 32GB to 64GB without moving anything else. The power supply is a 750W80 plus gold unit, so you have headroom for a future RTX 4090 if you ever want to go that route. The Wi-Fi 7 module is another forward-thinking inclusion. I tested it on a 2 gigabits per second fiber line and got a stable 1.8 gigabits per second download without any noticeable latency spikes while gaming. That said, the Aegis RS2 isn't a universal fit. If you're a budget-conscious gamer who's happy playing at 1080p or you're comfortable building your own PC, this machine might feel overpriced. The price point reflects the premium components and the convenience of a turnkey system, but you could assemble a comparable rig for a fraction of the cost if you have the know-how and time. On the flip side, if you're a streamer who wants a reliable workhorse that can handle both gaming and encoding without third-party cooling hacks, the liquid cooling and the robust PSU are real assets. The Wi-Fi 7 also means you won't need to run Ethernet cables through the house if your gaming room is a bit far from the router. I also wanted to see how the machine handled everyday tasks beyond gaming. I used it for video editing in Adobe Premiere, running a 4K project with multiple layers and effects. The rendering times were noticeably faster than my old tower, thanks to the combination of the i7's extra cores and the RTX 5070's CUDA cores. Even everyday browsing, Spotify, and a few Discord voice chats didn't cause any hiccups. It's a solid all-rounder for anyone who mixes work and play on the same machine.